Hello, how is everyone doing today? Welcome to the Rockadillion channel. And today what we're going to be going through are at least a list of 12 things that this orc opponent did that could have been improved upon to increase their chances to at least draw or win. Unfortunately for them, they did 12 things specifically that I can call out in this video that ended up in their demise and my ability to pull off the win in the end. So let's get looking at this and figure out what you can do to improve in your Blood Bowl playing. As you can see, we are playing as OWA, the Bayside Rumblers, my pirate-themed team. I play them on tabletop as well. I really like OWA, even in the 2020 rule set, which is what this is. They're kind of fun, a little challenging, and they can go pretty bad depending on how you do it. So we didn't win the toss, fine. What I'm doing here is I'm setting up so that I can, it's an offset setup that I learned from Andy Davo. You should go check out his channel. He has a lot of great resources and videos on setups and whatnot. But it pretty much puts all my block on one side and my thrower on the, or my catcher on the left side. So the first thing that I'm going to actually show you right now is in this setup for the orc team, they put their thrower on the line. This is typically not what you want. You want the thrower back in the backfield because you want them to be able to scoop up the ball. They have, the thrower on the orc team has sure hands. So if you don't pick up the ball on the first try, you're wasting a reroll or letting it just slip out. So mistake number one, never put your thrower on the line. So that's a needed reroll, the double skull, so I'm not going to harp on them too much about this. However, the second mistake, what I will say, is that this coach, this orc coach, did not conserve the rerolls well enough, in my opinion. Now, we'll see that in just a second. They have 2 rerolls right now. What we're going to see is by turn, I believe, 4 or 5, they have no rerolls left. And that is, unfortunately, probably due to sequencing or whatnot. You need to be able to keep your rerolls usage efficient, and unfortunately they did not. See, I did use a reroll here, but then when the tree decided not to stand up, I did not use a reroll there. He is just fine sitting on the ground. And what you can see here is the orc team did not provide any kind of screen for me to prevent my players from just running straight through. So right now I'm threatening them in the backfield with 2 players, and here's the 3rd player coming in. And they've set me up pretty well for this Troll Slayer to get this hit. And now I have 5 players that are free that can easily threaten the ball next turn. So one of the other mistakes that I have noted down here is that in the first turn they were really concerned with hitting my tree. And the reality is, if you're playing against OWA or anything that has a tree, like halflings or wood elves, you really can ignore the tree for the most part. And honestly, you could have just moved your players over to the right and not even worried about the tree. But he focused on hitting the tree so much that he moved players in for extra assists when, if you wanted the tree hit, just have those players on the line already. You shouldn't be moving them in to try and, because that just wastes your player movement efficiency. So they should have been on the line, giving those hits anyway. So you can see here again, that all happened from bad positioning in the first turn. I was able to. I have 5 players in the backfield, in their backfield, ready to assault the ball, ready to pick up the ball. I've got my thrower back there with sure hands, so I'm reasonably assured that I'll be able to pick it up. And they haven't been able to efficiently regroup and see, like I was saying earlier, you wanted your thrower back there so that you can have that be a more consistent pickup. You had to waste a reroll right there just to pick up the ball. And so by turn 3, you're down to 1 reroll. So that's kind of 1 and 2 put together, where conserving your rerolls as well as getting the right player in the right position at the right time. And the thrower should have been back there. Now I'm rooted here. It's fine. I was just going to move him in to contact. So in the back here, what they've done is they didn't protect the ball at all. I put my catcher here to provide an assist. That player that was knocked down in the previous turn has a free blitz. There's nothing keeping him from doing it. So he goes in, it goes down. Ball pops into a very favorable square. 1 dodge and a pickup with my thrower, like I said, so that I didn't have to use a reroll there. And now I'm threatening a score. So this opponent must be very, very new. And you can kind of tell based on how they position their players and who they're used for what. But this video is specifically for new players trying to understand what they should not do during a drive. And they're still very concerned with getting more contact down further rather than moving players up the field to support. What's happened here is they've got essentially 2 groups of players, the top group of 4 and then the bottom group of 7. But really there's not a cohesive orc group, and you really want to keep your orcs together. That's where their strength lies. And it's a very easy 3+ dodge with a reroll. It's an 88% chance that you're going to make that when you have the reroll. So there was not a huge chance that it was going to be a fail. It could have fallen over, but at this point I've scored on their offensive. They have no rerolls left, and it's only halfway through the first half. So again, this is a lot of focusing on the tree hit and also focusing on getting. I mean, you can see right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players are stuck in one area just trying to hit 3 other players of mine. So in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, I don't care that they're using that many resources to do this. Really, I mean, there's an unnecessary 2 extra players there, including the thrower, who should never have been on the front line in the first place. Because right now what I can do is I'm setting up for a Troll Slayer hit on that biggin off to the right, and let's see, we get him down. I'm not going to re-roll that because that Troll Slayer has Loner. But now I've got four players against 4 players, and see, we're getting to the point where this tree is holding down 4 players by himself. they're either going to have to try and dodge off or try and hit him down, then move those players, which is fine. But if that troll is your main source for trying to hit that tree and he goes stupid, then you lost tackle zones and you've lost the chance to, in a lot of ways, get this tree down. Now, I keep not using stand firm intentionally because now in this position I can just stand the tree up and he's holding down my left side. In the other position, he could have gotten fouled, which I don't want, but I'm trying to think of ways for the next turn to improve my position. So here in this next sequence here, I believe you're going to see what I think is probably an incorrect decision when it comes to this line work. And so that line work gets badly hurt, which is fine. It happens. He has a backup line orc on his sideline, but he used his apothecary for a line orc. I don't agree with that. That should be, that apothecary should be reserved for a blitzer, your troll, a biggin, something else that has a lot more value than a line orc, especially when you have a backup line orc on the sidelines. So reroll conservation and apo conservation is really important in this instance. And you can see here I've got a full screen right up front. The tree is holding on the left side. They're not going to come down that way because that's going to be too risky for them, especially with stand firm. He's just going to stand there. So there's a lot of basing going on. And I understand why they're doing this, but this next move that they do, I don't understand this. They've already got the ball on a reasonable carrier. Unless you are close to scoring and you want to score on that thrower, there's no reason to do that handoff. Now you've opened your position to just be very precarious. Let's see, I got 2 hits on this blitzer. I was able to stun him, and now my tree can close in on this side and really hold down this left side. So I moved in that dwarf blocker so I could get the assist here. So I was trying to surf the biggin, but that's an issue. So my Troll Slayer is my threat piece. It's not necessarily my main piece to hit with. And I didn't pick up my dwarf blitzer back there because if I did, he would have either just gotten hit, and he has loner. I didn't want to dodge him off. So I just left him back there. Well, the opponent picked up the ball but then didn't move away from that square. That's a big problem for them because now they've moved a lot of their orcs are now kind of in this good group. However, what I do next is I've got my Troll Slayer over there that I can just hit their line orc with. Put it in assist. And I moved this out of the way because I wanted to get my catcher 1 square closer, so they only had to do 1 dodge. Now I'm able to blitz his thrower with the ball, with 2 dice on the ball. Now this was fortunate. I didn't necessarily care about catching the ball. But the ball protection for this new coach is that's something for a lot of new coaches that need to remember. You've gotta think about what's the next play of your opponent, right? And what's the next turn look like? And unfortunately, they just parked it right next to my dwarf blitzer. I got 2 assists that was really no difficult to do than just moving a couple players, and there it was. So we're going to see here, I wanted to get 2 hits with my Troll Slayer on the troll. And so I've set up in a way so that I can get 2 dice on this left line orc, move it out of the way, and then get 3 dice on this right line orc with my tree to try and ensure that it gets knocked over. So that happened, boom, got it. Tree is rooted, but that's not a problem. So my Troll Slayer does his thing, gets a push, and then goes right in and gets a POW. And that's what he's hired for. But now I got to make sure that I protect him because he's kind of hanging out there, so I move in another player. This is where my opponent, this is the 7th mistake I would say my opponent had an oversight on. And I did too, to be honest. So I blitzed this line orc and moved this player back. What really should have happened there is I should have kept that blitzer there or put the blitzer behind the dwarf, because right now all they'd have to do is blitz with a biggin on that dwarf, and if that dwarf goes down, all those players can flood through to my backfield. And they didn't see that. They didn't exploit that weakness, thankfully for me. But that would have made it much more difficult for me to try and take care of. If 3 or 4 orcs are in your backfield, and one of those blitzer orcs could have actually touched the ball carrier. So here we've got, there was a weakness on this side where he had based up that lineman, and so I took advantage of it by blitzing with the ball through that piece, and now everything he's got is based. It's going to be harder for him to get anything off. And so I'm not too concerned. Now, snaked that one, but I mean, whatever. I didn't need to re-roll that one. Probably shouldn't have, but honestly, it's in retrospect, that was, hindsight's 20/20. Now, this part, there's a block that occurs on the Troll Slayer, and they rolled a safe roll of push, but they rolled into a POW push. In my opinion, that's one of the things that you're looking at for, is it important or is it not important? And that was an unimportant, push or reroll, because, and the follow-up afterwards was not necessary. You take the push, you move that line orc to that lineman up there, you blitz with the blitzer orc, you base the ball, move another lineman up in here, and then you put your thrower in the backfield. That's how the sequence should have been for this player. That's how they could have put more pressure on the ball and made this a more difficult situation here. Right now I'm wanting to score on my catcher, so I position my thrower to make it more difficult for a dodging out line orc to get to my catcher. And then I move my players to provide a screen. And this is what I mean by that follow. That follow previously shouldn't have happened because now my tree is rooted, so I can't move anywhere. But I was able to stun one of his line orcs because he followed that pow from earlier. So again, this is where he's focusing on this big guy. He's moved so many players into this vicinity, it doesn't even make sense. These players need to be supporting the other orcs up top now. And that foul right there, that's the number 9 mistake that I have on my list. It is, you're fouling with a big guy. Troll is 130 something, and Troll Slayer is 95. You're risking having a 130 player sent off for the entire game to get some value of one of my players possibly getting injured or stunned for 1 turn. It's not worth it. If you had a goblin, sure, goblin make that foul all the time, but with a big guy, that is a severe lack of resource management. So now you see that this coach had so many resources associated with this tree and trying to get this tree down that you've got 5 players back here, only 6 or 4 up top because he's lost someone. And actually he's got a KO, so he's got 4 up top. No, 3 up top. No, 4. Yeah, that's right. Anyway, what I'm talking about resource management is your players. You get value out of players only if they can be open and move. So now I've got 2 players that are holding down 3. 1 down here is, you see, it's not. You're not providing enough value for the players that you have on the field. So again, this coach still isn't quite grasping the idea that you need to line up your players ahead of time to get the blocks that you're wanting, not move in additional players in the backside at the end, right? And now that thrower who should have been in the backfield already, who could have picked up the ball already and brought it forward, is now in the middle area with, for whatever reason. So now you've got all the players grouped up here on the left side and the right side. There's no full cohesive good line. And doesn't matter if that tree is rooted, now he's holding down a troll and a blitzer, and this is just to kind of compact everybody some more. Positioning on this didn't give a full-blown ability for any continuous line, any continuous screen. And you'll see one of the biggest mistakes they made on turn 14, they're so focused on my tree. Again, really focused on this tree. They didn't put the assist in properly. And we're going to see so here comes a thrower. Again, there's the assist. And you opened with a big guy block. That's, it doesn't have block. And you're asking for a 1-in-9 situation, and there it was. Doesn't matter if the tree's down. Now you have a very exposed position in the backfield, and you have no one in scoring position either. You're going to have to, on turn 15, you're going to have to get somebody within scoring position. Well, that's going to be your blitzer. That's going to be down here on the left side, and it's nowhere near able to do that yet. And now this tree is back up. Your troll is not up. And you're gonna have to blitz somewhere somehow just to get 3 players free. Right? Now this next mistake could have been a misclick. I don't honestly know, but it makes almost no sense. He dodges away, he's fine, but then he dodges into 3 tackle zones with a line order. I mean, you're talking about a 6+ dodge to hit something or to put in an assist. I don't know what was. Maybe that was a misclick. I don't know. The overarching theme of this entire game really was it didn't seem like this coach had any plan for where the ball was going, who was going to be getting the ball, what resources you had available, what resources could you make available with no additional needs. This was to get a 3-die block on the blitzer down there. All of this didn't seem like there was any future planning to the next turn. Not to call it out as being, not to be rude about it, but it's just, oh, I guess it was on the thrower. But it's just, there wasn't any, it was more like, I'm just going to bash this, I'm going to focus on this tree, I'm going to try and use my resources in different ways, and it just wasn't really a well thought out game plan for this team. So, and that's unfortunately what led to their 2-0 loss against OWA, which isn't an inherently fantastic team. It's not a terrible team. But if you like this content, please like and subscribe.